This program is rated PG. It contains themes and scenes which may not be suitable for very young audiences. Parental guidance is advised.
We're working to connect a region of over 600 million bridges between our lands.
Hello, I'm Alma Angeles and you're watching ASEAN in Focus. We're coming to you live from Manila and Cambodia. Hello, Crystal.
Hello, Alma. I'm Crystal Ann Ballesteros, bringing you the news in the dynamic ASEAN region.
On today's headlines. A U.S. journalist detained in Myanmar since May appeared Thursday in a special court, his employer said, where he faces charges under a law that criminalizes encouraging dissent against the military.
Thailand is planning to reopen its borders to tourists in mid-October for those who are fully vaccinated, according to an announcement from the Prime Minister. Our EBC correspondent Faye Barta will give us the details.
Singapore launched a carbon trading marketplace backed by its state investment firm, stock exchange, and largest bank, offering carbon credits and investments in conservation projects. Our EBC correspondent Heather Pilar will give us the details later.
Our EBC correspondent Esther Odanga takes us Nongmon Market is, a famous souvenir market of Chunburi province.
You can find both fresh and processed seafood such as
First, to the ongoing crisis in Myanmar. A U.S. journalist detained there since May appeared Thursday in a special court, according to his employers, where he faces charges under a law that criminalizes encouraging dissent against the military. Danny Fenster, managing editor of the Frontier Myanmar news outlet, appeared in court to face a charge under Section 505A of the Penal Code, which carries a maximum 3-year jail sentence, according to Frontier in a statement. He was later remanded to Yangon's insane prison, it said, adding he was scheduled to appear again in court on July 1. It was the first time Fenster had been seen or heard since he was detained in May. No reason was given for the filing of the charge against him, according to the statement. The U.S. State Department said that the U.S. Embassy was denied requests to see Fenster. We urge the Burmese to grant consular access as required by the Vienna Convention on Consular Relations without delay, and to ensure proper treatment of Danny while he remains detained, according to State Department spokesman Ned Price to reporters using the country's former name of Burma. He said, "We are doing everything we can to see to it that Danny Fenster is reunited with his family." Fenster, 37, was detained on May 24 at the international airport in Yangon, Myanmar's main city, as he tried to board a plane out of the country. He had been working for Frontier for around a year and had been heading home to see his family. Fenster appeared in good health during his appearance, according to his lawyer, Frontier Editor-in-Chief Tom Kean.
Goalkeeper from Myanmar's national team, who raised an anti-coup salute during a match outside Tokyo, has refused to fly home and will seek asylum in Japan. Last month, substitute goalkeeper Piai Ong raised the three-finger salute as the national anthem played before a World Cup qualifier against Japan. National broadcaster NHK and Kyodo News Agency reported last Wednesday or late Wednesday that he told a Japanese immigration officer at an airport in Osaka that he would not board a plane back to Myanmar. Quote, "If I return to Myanmar, my life would be in danger. I decided to stay in Japan." End of quote. Footage broadcast by NHK showed him saying through a translator at the airport, "The Japanese government and people must know Myanmar's situation. I call for your cooperation," he added. The three-finger salute has frequently been used as a show of resistance by protesters during demonstrations. Japan's immigration agency could not immediately be reached for comment. Japan accepts just a handful of asylum applications each year, but in May, the Justice Ministry said Myanmar residents already in the country would be able to extend their stays as an emergency measure, given the coup and resulting violence.
Bangladesh officials said they have contained a diarrhea outbreak which has killed 4 Rohingya refugees and infected 1,500 others on an island camp that has alarmed rights groups and the UN. Bangladesh has shifted 18,000 refugees to the low-lying Brachan Char from cramped settlements on the mainland, but many of those relocated say they were coerced and that health and other facilities in an area frequently hit by deadly cyclones are poor. Officials and Rohingya sources said the diarrhea broke out early this month after the first heavy monsoon rains. At least 4 people have died over the last 2 weeks, 2 officials on the island told AFP, including a 20-year-old woman and 3 children. Rahat Tanvir Anwar, a doctor from the Seoul 20-bed clinic at the island, said at least 1,550 people, nearly 10% of those on the island, had been infected and some 600 needed hospital treatment. Saad Hamadi from Amnesty International blamed the hurried relocation of thousands of Rohingya refugees to the island without letting rights and humanitarian groups carry out independent assessment of the condition on the island. The United Nations said earlier this month that although the island has some potential, people on the island needed access to meaningful livelihood opportunities, skills development, education, health, and access to cash to facilitate their daily lives.
Frenchman Remy Dallier, a figure in conspiracy circles and suspected of being involved in the kidnapping of an 8-year-old girl known as Mia in April in eastern France, will run for president, his lawyer says. Mr. Dallier was arrested on arriving back in France and has been charged with complicity in the kidnapping of a 15-year-old minor in an organized gang and placed in pre-trial detention.
Ce qu'il faut retenir ce soir, et c'est les paroles de mon client que je rapporte parce qu'il n'est pas là pour pouvoir le faire, c'est que ce soir Remy Dallier-Wildman passe du statut d'opposant politique au statut de candidat à la présidence de la République française. Autrement dit, étant aujourd'hui, du fait de la volonté du système, embastillé, il a décidé de se présenter au suffrage dans le cadre des élections à venir dans un an.
Remy Dallier, who was traveling on the Air France flight with his pregnant partner and 3 children, was immediately detained on arrival at Paris Charles de Gaulle Airport, said an airport source who asked not to be named. The kidnapped girl, identified as Mia, was taken in mid-April from the home in eastern France of her grandmother, who had custody of her, by several men employed by Mia's mother. Investigators believe the abduction may have been organized by extremist activists led by Dallier, who believe that children in care are unfairly taken from their parents. 10 individuals, including the mother, were indicted over the abduction following an intense 5-day search that ended in Switzerland, and 7 of them are now under arrest. Mia's mother had lost custody of her daughter and was no longer allowed to see her alone or speak with her on the telephone. Dallier is known to police as a proponent of extremist conspiracy theories and a populist takeover of the state. After the abduction, Dahlia posted a video in which he said that his organization returns children kidnapped by the state to parents, and their request, there was absolutely no kidnapping.
In other news, a Malaysian court Wednesday overturned an inquest verdict of misadventure in the death of a French-Irish schoolgirl who vanished in the jungle, replacing it with an open ruling in a victory for her family. The initial verdict indicated the death was accidental, but the new ruling leaves open the possibility of criminal involvement and may put pressure on authorities to conduct a new probe. Take a look.
I'm of the view that the learned coroner was in error to have returned a verdict of misadventure. In my view, it was not probable for Nora Ann to have ventured out of the Sora house on her own. Now, these facts taken together establish that it was unlikely for Nora Ann to have gone out on her own. I am therefore constrained to substitute an open verdict in place of the verdict of misadventure returned by the learned coroner. However, having reviewed the material that was before the court, I am of the view that the verdict of misadventure ought to be vacated in the interests of justice and substituted with an open verdict, as there was no credible evidence to support any other verdict. Given the evidence that was before the court, I fail to see how it could have been said that it was more probable than not that Nora Ann had died as a result of misadventure.
The body of Nora Quarren, a 15-year-old with learning difficulties, was discovered after a huge hunt through the rainforest following her disappearance from a resort outside Kuala Lumpur back in 2019. In January, a coroner handed down the misadventure ruling and said no one else was involved. But her London-based parents, who have dismissed authorities' claims their daughter wandered into the jungle alone at night and believe she was abducted, said they were utterly disappointed. Malaysian police have stuck to their version of events, that the teenager clambered out of a window of the family's holiday chalet and wandered off, and insists there was no sign of foul play. But her mother, Mayab, said she believes someone could have placed her body in the spot where it was found in a stream in the jungle not far from the resort. They lodged a challenge seeking to have the ruling revised to an open verdict.
In Thailand, autopsy results have found no link between COVID-19 vaccines and the post-vaccination deaths of 13 people. This according to Dr. Chawetsan Namwat, Director for Emergency Health Hazards and Diseases of the Department of Disease Control. Here's Veronica Carino from our EBC Thailand Bureau. Hi, Veronica.
Hello, Crystal. Thank you. There is no link between COVID-19 vaccines and the post-vaccination deaths of 13 people from autopsy results, according to Dr. Chawetsan Namwat, Director of the Department of Disease Control's Emergency Hazard and Diseases. 993 cases of unfavorable side effects out of 3,214,385 first doses of Sinovac vaccine administered since February 28 this year were discovered, with patients admitted for observation and treatment, or 20 cases for every 100,000 doses of the vaccine administered. The most common negative side effects are dizziness, 20%, nausea, 15%, headache, 12%, vomiting, 8%, rashes, 7%, muscle pains, 6%, stomach upset, 5%, and itching, 4%. In the case of the AstraZeneca vaccine, 472 incidents of unfavorable side effects were discovered out of 1,943,693 doses administered, or 24 cases per 100,000 4,000 doses administered. Fever 31%, headache 27%, dizziness 21%, nausea 21%, vomiting 20%, muscle pains 15%, fatigue 13%, and loose stool 7% are the most common unfavorable side effects. According to Dr. Chawet San, only data on severe cases that required hospitalization were collected for analysis, while mild cases that recovered after being given medication and then sent home were not included. He revealed that there were 68 deaths after receiving vaccine jabs up to June 15, and autopsy results on 13 cases are available, with none of them being linked to vaccine use, with autopsy results on the remaining cases still pending. There were 8 cases of acute myocardial infarction or heart attack, 1 case of immune thrombotic thrombocytopenic purpura, 1 case of blood clots in the lungs, 1 case of purulent meningitis, 1 case of intra-abdominal aneurysm, and 1 case of ruptured aneurysm in the brain among the 13 fatalities for which autopsy results were available. Dr. Chawet San stated that 4,173 fatalities were reported in the United States following vaccinations between December 14th and May 3rd, a period in which 25 or 259 million doses of vaccines were administered, and that none of them were linked to vaccinations. He insisted that the Ministry of Public Health places the highest priority on people's safety, saying that if there is any doubtful information that needs to be cleared up, the ministry will do everything possible to clear the air. The vaccines are safe and are used in Thailand and around the world, Dr. Chawet San said. This update is from Thai PBS World. Back to you, Crystal.
Thank you for the update, Veronica. Please stay safe there.
Thank you and have a great weekend. Reporting from Thailand, this is Veronica Carino, and we live in interesting times.
Staying in Thailand, the country is planning to reopen its borders to tourists in mid-October for those who are fully vaccinated. That according to an announcement from the Prime Minister. Here's Faye Barte for the details. Faye?
Good afternoon to you, Alma. Thailand will fully reopen to foreign visitors in 4 months. Premier Prayut Chan-o-cha vows in a televised address, citing the urgent need to save the kingdom's ailing tourism industry. Here's Premier Prayut Chan-o-cha, and let's listen in.
ตั้งเป้าเอาไว้ว่าประเทศไทยจะต้องเปิดประเทศทั้งประเทศให้ได้ภายใน120 วันนับจากวันนี้ส่วนเมืองท่องเที่ยวที่สำคัญหากพร้อมได้เร็วกว่าก็ควรจะทยอยเปิดให้ได้เร็วกว่านั้นยกเว้นหากมีสถานการณ์ร้ายแรงใหม่เกิดขึ้นหรือมีความจำเป็นจริงๆก็จะพิจารณาเป็นกรณีไป
To do this, Thailand's top priority is to get at least 1 shot for everyone in the country ahead of the reopening. Premier Prayut expects 50 million Thais to be inoculated by October with a target of at least 10 million per month. The coronavirus pandemic has hammered Thailand's tentpole tourism sector amid border closures and strict hotel quarantine measures. The impact has reverberated across different sectors, downing hotels, restaurants, bars, and local transport operators, and the country's present battle against a third wave has left local businesses clamoring for more government aid. Tourism previously made up almost 20% of Thailand's national income, and a so-called Phuket Sandbox has also been floated and allowing vaccinated tourists to enter the country without quarantine, but the mixed messaging from authorities on the program has left some potential visitors gun shy on purchasing flights. Prayut's address signifies a dramatic turnaround in Thailand's vaccine and reopening strategy. The government originally planned to reopen the kingdom at the outset of 2022 after reaching herd immunity by giving 2 jabs to 70% of all residents. The new plan brings forward the reopening date by a month and a half and makes do with nearly half the jabs required in the previous plan. The long-ailing economy prompted the rethink. Since March, Thailand has been suffering through a third wave of infections and subsequent business lockdowns. And in May, the Bank of Thailand made economic projections for 3 scenarios. If herd immunity is achieved by the first quarter of 2022, it forecasts growth of 2% in 2021 and 4.7% in 2022. A herd immunity delay to the third quarter would slow the rates of 1.5% and 2.8%, while further lag till the fourth quarter would bring growth down to 1% and 1.1%. The forecasts show how vulnerable Thailand is without tourism and the businesses that flourish because of this. In addition to this, Alma, according to the graphics that Reuters.com, the latest updates about the vaccination rollout all throughout the country, in the record, 7.3 have already received the first dose and 2.7% have been fully vaccinated. Back to you, Alma.
All right. Thank you very much for those details from Thailand. And hopefully the tourism sector will reopen the economy. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Alma. This is Faye Barte reporting live from Thailand Bureau, and we live in interesting times.
Meanwhile, Singapore launched a carbon trading marketplace backed by its state investment firm, Stock Exchange and largest bank, offering carbon credits and investments in conservation projects. Here's Heather Pilar Clemente reporting live.
Thank you, Crystal. A financial exchange offering carbon credits and investments in conservation projects is set to launch in Singapore. The initiative, known as Climate Impact X, will have 2 main platforms: a marketplace of nature-based projects for firms to invest in, and an exchange where high-quality carbon credits are freely traded in larger quantities, catering mainly to multinationals and institutional investors. CIX, which is expected to launch by the end of the year, joins a small number of such exchanges that have sprung up in recent times. But it is a betting on Singapore's status as a leading financial hub, as well as its location in Asia, to boost its chances of success. The region still relies heavily on coal for power, making a high-quality carbon market vital for emissions reduction, said Monetary Authority of Singapore Managing Director Ravi Menon, as the CIX was announced last month. In addition, he said, Southeast Asia is fertile ground to harness the potential of nature-based solutions with abundant mangroves and large areas suitable for reforestation. The exchange is part of the so-called voluntary carbon markets, as opposed to mandatory initiatives such as the EU's emissions trading scheme, where caps are set on certain industries. Voluntary markets have boomed in the past year, but industry figures say they will have to grow faster to support investment required to meet the goal in the Paris Climate Accord of capping global warming at 1.5 degrees Celsius. A private sector task force established last year to boost voluntary markets, unify them, and strengthen oversight estimates they will need to expand 15-fold by 2030. Benjamin P. Horton, director of the Earth Observatory of Singapore at Nanyang Technological University, said, investing in conservation projects could contribute to combating global warming. But he warned, this should not, but in addition to a lot of hard work that needs to happen to decarbonize energy, transportation, agriculture, and other sectors of the economy. Back to you, Crystal.
Thank you, Heather, for that news. Please keep us updated.
Thank you. Reporting live from Singapore, I'm Heather Pilar Clemente. We live in interesting times.
Meanwhile, the beautiful island nation of Maldives have confirmed the spread of COVID variants, including the Alpha and Delta variants. Joining us live is Steffi Diwan. Hello, Steffi.
Hello, Alma. Good afternoon. Yes, Health Emergency Operations Center, or HEOC, has confirmed the spread of over 5 COVID-19 variants in Maldives, including Alpha variant, first discovered in the United Kingdom, and the Delta variant, first discovered in India. In a press conference on Tuesday evening, HEOC spokesperson and epidemiologist Dr. Nasla Rafiq said they have received the results of the third batch of samples sent overseas for sequencing. Nasla said that the results show the highest number of samples to be positive for the Delta variant. 27% of the samples tested positive for the Delta variant, 20% for Alpha variant, and 13% for the G variant. The result confirms the existence of the variants Delta, Alpha G, GR, and sublineage in Maldives. Meanwhile, the remaining 27% were other variants. Nasla said the samples sent for sequencing include swabs taken from both locals and foreigners, and noted that with global travel, there will always be a risk of new variants from across the world getting imported to Maldives. She said that HEOC plans on sending more samples for sequencing and are working on increasing the numbers of samples that can be sent. Samples for sequencing are currently sent in batches of 30 samples. The Delta variant, originally discovered in India, is found to be more contagious and more likely to require hospitalization. Maldives experienced an alarming surge in COVID-19 cases in April and May, resulting in a devastating rise in fatalities. Last May saw the highest number of COVID-19 fatalities in a single month, with 88 deaths. While infection rates have begun dropping with the implementation of new restrictive measures in May, fatalities continue to be worrying. Maldives recorded its youngest COVID-19 fatality, a 10-year-old girl, and a first maternal death related to COVID-19 is a 25-year-old woman this June. And that's my quick update from Maldives. Back to you, Alma.
All right, thank you very much. You take care, because the new variant is spreading over there also. And please do keep us updated. Thank you, Steph, for your time. Have a great weekend.
Thank you so much, Alma. Please be safe also. Reporting live from Maldives, this is Steffi Dihuan, and we live in interesting times.
All right, the news continues here on ASEAN in Focus. Crystal and I will be back right after this break.
This portion is brought to you by Security Bank.
Events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced, eagle news, because we live in interesting times.
Innovation, digital disruption, globalization. Startups, micro, small, and medium enterprises, as well as large corporations, all face interesting challenges in the market today. Peek into the world of exciting opportunities and partnerships to drive growth with the latest business news and information. We are open for business. Your weekly dose of entrepreneurial inspiration to update you on the latest developments in the world of business. Get up close and personal with CEOs and thought leaders to help you discover valuable insights, sharpen your instincts for smart decision making with the latest markets and economic trends, disruptive ideas, global innovation, social entrepreneurship, and other leading-edge business ideas. Join the conversations to create a more vibrant environment for entrepreneurship. Catch Open for Business, from vision to action.
Hey there, Arnie Aquino here at Hatley Castle, one of the filming locations for the X-Men series. Don't forget to tune in to Digital Nest only on Net25.
Let's go over to Vietnam as the Deputy Prime Minister Vu Duc Dam, in an online meeting with Dr. Takeshi Kasa, WHO Regional Director for the Western Pacific, has urged the agency to accelerate the transfer of vaccine production technology to Vietnam. Here's Eliana Faith Sebastian will give us the details.
Hello, Crystal. Yes, that's right. Vietnam urges WHO to accelerate the transfer of COVID-19 vaccine supply and production technology. And here is an update from Vietnam News. Deputy Prime Minister Vu Duc Dam has brought forward to the World Health Organization the speed up in the transfer of vaccine production technology to Vietnam to aid the country towards becoming a regional vaccine production center. In an online meeting yesterday with WHO Regional Director for the Western Pacific, Dr. Takeshi Kasa, and Dam, leader of National Steering Committee on COVID-19 Prevention and Control, they tackled vaccine supply, Vietnam's response to the outbreak, and the country's access to vaccines. Deputy Minister Dam highly regarded WHO's role in the fight against the pandemic and expressed gratitude to the organization for helping Vietnam for the past year and a half since the pandemic occurred. He stated that the Vietnamese government has made efforts to accelerate the implementation of its vaccination strategy to attain herd immunity soon and resume socioeconomic activities, as well as ensure public health and social security. He propounded the WHO encourage vaccine delivery under the COVAX facility and transfer of vaccine production technology to Vietnam, with the goal to assist regional countries soon get access to vaccines. Dr. Kasa said that he recognizes the effective actions of Vietnam against COVID-19, highlighting the drastic and focused direction from senior leaders, together with communications on pandemic prevention and control measures, have been successfully implemented with the strict compliance of the whole community. He acknowledged the country's precise and effective approach to vaccines through making stable investments in pandemic prevention and control, particularly stimulating the participation of the private sector and promoting public-private partnerships for technology transfer and vaccine production. In line with this, he promised to further support Vietnam's fight against COVID-19 and that he would accelerate the transfer of vaccine supplies under the COVAX mechanism and vaccine production technology to the country. Back to you, Crystal.
Thank you for your time, Eliana. I hope everything will get better there in Vietnam. Stay safe.
Thank you so much, Crystal. Reporting live from Da Nang, Vietnam. This is Eliana Faith Sebastian, and we live in interesting times.
And staying in Vietnam, the city of Ho Chi Minh City, the city of Ho Chi Minh plans to administer more than 800,000 vaccine doses in a week. Micah Gwyneth Apostol joins us live. Hello, Micah.
Hello, Alma. Here's another news from Vietnam News International. Ho Chi Minh City aims to make use of all 836,000 COVID-19 vaccine doses it has obtained from the Health Ministry within a week, starting Saturday. According to the Deputy Health Minister Nguyen Trong Son, the AstraZeneca vaccine doses, part of a batch of 320,000 doses provided by Japan on Wednesday, were taken to a storage facility at Ho Chi Minh City's Pasteur Institute on Thursday. He added that normally, a vaccine batch imported into Vietnam would need to be evaluated over 48 hours before it is approved for use. But the ministry will streamline the process so the shots could be given sooner. In addition to that, the vaccine agreement process is anticipated to be completed by Friday, and shots could be given beginning on Saturday. The doses would be given out throughout around 1,000 vaccination stations in the city. Ho Chi Minh City recorded 137 COVID-19 cases, the highest number of infections observed within 24 hours for the southern metropolis on Thursday. And on that same day, Vietnam recorded 503 local COVID-19 cases, a new high record for the nation's daily tally since the pandemic hit early last year. Ho Chi Minh City now has 1,197 local COVID-19 cases, behind only Bac Giang with 5,007 and Bac Ninh with 1,454. Because of the new doses, over 1 million citizens in Ho Chi Minh City could be vaccinated. And nationwide, around 1.5 million people have been vaccinated against COVID-19, mainly frontline fighters against the pandemic. Back to you, Alma.
Thank you, Micah. Stay safe. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Alma. Reporting live from Da Nang, Vietnam. This is Micah Gwyneth Apostle. We live in interesting times.
Meanwhile, Singapore and Australia will work towards an air travel bubble, and both nations will lay the groundwork for resuming two-way travel in a safe and calibrated manner, said the prime ministers of both countries on Thursday. Both prime ministers expressed their hope that Singapore students and Australia would be the first to get the opportunity to travel from this arrangement.
So we discussed how two-way travel between Singapore and Australia can eventually resume in a safe and calibrated manner when both sides are ready. Before COVID-19, many Singaporeans traveled to Australia for business, for holidays, and to pursue their education, and vice versa. And we need to resume these people-to-people flows to maintain our close and excellent bilateral relationship. We need to prepare the infrastructure and the processes to get ready to do this, and it starts with mutual recognition of health and vaccination certificates, possibly in a digital form, very likely. And when ready, when all the preparations are ready, then we can start small with an air travel bubble to build confidence on both sides.
We'll now work together to put the infrastructure in place, to put the systems in place to enable us to open up in a similar way that we've been able to open up to New Zealand from Australia when we're both in a position to do so. There is still some time before we reach that milestone, but there is nothing impeding us, as we've discussed today, from getting on with the job of putting systems in place that will enable such a bubble to emerge between Singapore and Australia as it does now occur between Australia and New Zealand.
Thursday's meeting was the first in-person meeting between Prime Minister Lee and Mr. Morrison in more than a year. Under the Singapore-Australia Comprehensive Strategic Partnership, or CSP, the prime ministers of both countries meet annually, but their last meeting was held virtually in March last year due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Bilateral relationship. We need to prepare the infrastructure and the processes to get ready to do this.
The ceiling on the annual overseas deployment of healthcare workers, or HCWS, has been raised to 6,500 from the current 5,000, that according to Malacanang today. Now, this developed after members of the Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases agreed to increase the annual deployment cap of new hire HCWs. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said in a press statement, the Interagency Task Force on Thursday, June 17, 2021, increased the annual deployment ceiling of new hire healthcare workers. For mission-critical skills to 6,500, according to Secretary Roque. HCWs falling under MCs with perfected contracts as of May 31 this year will form part of the adjusted ceiling, according to the spokesperson. HCWs under government-to-government labor agreements, Roque said, are exempted from the new deployment cap.
Still in the Philippines, President Rodrigo Duterte has merely brushed aside the International Criminal Court's or ICC's request for judicial authorization to investigate his administration's anti-narcotics drive, Malacanang said on Thursday.
I sent a copy of the press release made by the prosecutor's office, and a day later I sent a copy of the 52-page opinion of the prosecutor. And immediately his reaction was, ba't ganito to? Bakit puro Rappler, ABS-CBN at ang sinasite ng prosecutor, no? Kaya nga po, after we saw the 52-page decision, knowing that they were citing Rappler and ABS-CBN and Inquirer, medyo napayapa na po kami because in law, all these newspaper accounts are mere hearsay. You know, he shrugged off the opinion after checking the sources, media sources. Kasi all lawyers know that will not stand in court. And since you need the judicial authorization to proceed to an investigation, lawyers know that you cannot start any proceedings on the basis of hearsay evidence.
The Philippines cut ties with ICC after Bensouda pushed through with the preliminary examination into the drug campaign in February 2018. It officially withdrew its membership from the ICC on March 17, 2019, or exactly a year after it revoked the Rome Statute that created the International Court. Duterte and other Philippine officials have repeatedly insisted that ICC has no jurisdiction over the Philippines since the Rome Statute was never published in a newspaper of general circulation or the official gazette.
In other news, 5 Chinese nationals and a Filipino were arrested for attempting to kidnap their compatriot in Parañaque City on Thursday. Philippine National Police Chief General Guillermo Eleazar identified the suspects as Li Yang, Zhu Hao, Liu Jiyong, Zhang Jiawao, Qi Yobo, all Chinese nationals, and their Filipino driver, Nelson Malavega. Citing a report from the National Capital Region Police Office, Eleazar said the victim, a 23-year-old male Chinese worker of a Philippine offshore gaming operator, or POGO, was approached by the suspects after he alighted from a transport network vehicle service in a hotel in ASEAN, Barangay Tambo at around 1:40 in the afternoon. After a heated argument, the victim was forcibly taken by the suspects aboard a Toyota Hi-Ace van. The commotion caught the attention of hotel security personnel who immediately reported the incident to the Substation 2 of Parañaque City Police Station. Duty personnel who responded to the incident immediately intercepted the suspect's vehicle and rescued the victim. Initial reports said the victims owed a debt worth 750,000 pesos. The suspects are now under custody at Parañaque City Police Station for investigation and filing of appropriate charges.
Keep on watching as ASEAN in Focus will be right back.
Factual.
We have to defeat the virus everywhere.
Timely information. Balanced. Not only in the country, but also abroad.
I'm certain of one thing.
Interviews that people need to know. Watch Aguila Pilipinas. A 1-hour newscast of reports coming from regional hubs in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Know the important updates in Asia in ASEAN in Focus. Track the latest stories in the provinces in Aguila Provincia.
Sa mga taga-Iloilo at Antique.
Tune into Mata ng Agila, the evening primetime news program of Net25. Balanced and objective, Mata ng Agila covers national and international issues, tackles news on business, health, science and technology, entertainment, sports and human interest features, and current events. And Eagle News International delivers the latest global reports, impartial, accessible, and up-to-date. It brings to fore EBC's rich international scope and access to valuable information streams.
Well, thank you to explain our help outdoor.
Catch these programs on Net25. You can also watch our news programs through eaglenews.ph and Eagle News Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Welcome back to the program. Staying in the Philippines, stringent implementation of measures against the spread of coronavirus disease or COVID-19 is seen as the key for the continued reopening of the economy and help address the employment situation in the country. In an economic bulletin released on Thursday, the Department of Finance or DOF said the number of employed Filipinos went back to pre-pandemic levels early this year after more than 8.7 million Filipinos lost their jobs in April 2020 because of the pandemic. It said employed individuals reached 43 million as of January 2021, higher than the 42.5 million during the same period last year. As of last April, employment reached almost 43.3 million, but the economic bulletin said this could be higher if not for the reimposition of a 2-week enhanced community quarantine or ECQ starting March 29 in National Capital Region Plus to address the surge in COVID-19 infections and the implementation of the modified ECQ in the succeeding weeks. NCR Plus also covers 4 nearby provinces, namely Bulacan, Rizal, Laguna, and Cavite.
In other news in the region, dengue fever infections dropped dramatically. In an Indonesian study where a bacteria was introduced into disease-carrying mosquitoes, offering hope in the battle against an illness that sickens millions annually around the world. Let's listen in.
Kita harus memproduksi nyamuk yang kualitasnya sama dengan kualitas yang ada di luar. Karena memang konsep dari teknologi ini adalah bagaimana membuat nyamuk itu berhasil kawin dengan yang di wild atau yang di liar. Sehingga ada prosedur-prosedur tertentu. Jadi banyak di Indonesia yang tropical ini yang sebetulnya kan kita sudah punya kayak problem permanen itu dengue. Terus muncul COVID. Jadi pada banyak wilayah itu mendapatkan double burden atau mendapatkan cekaman 2 penyakit yang itu sama-sama fatal, menyebabkan fatality.
The trial involved releasing Wolbachia into the mosquito population across specific parts of Yogyakarta to measure how it impacted the incidence of infections among 3 to 45-year-olds. It now has been expanded to other parts of the city. Wolbachia suppresses the ability of the virus to replicate in dengue-carrying Aedes aegypti mosquitoes and cause infections when they bite humans. Researchers said previous trials involving Wolbachia, commonly found in fruit flies and other insects, also showed positive results in reducing dengue cases. Scientists hope the method could be a game changer in a global battle against the disease, which can sometimes be fatal.
Going back to Thailand, sniffer dogs trained to detect COVID-19 in human sweat prove nearly 95% accurate. during training and could be used to identify coronavirus infections at BC transport hubs within seconds.
They didn't identify the virus. They are not PCR machine. So what they detect is the volatile organic compounds that produced from our body by cell metabolism of the infected organ.
The dogs can detect a volatile organic compound secreted in the sweat of COVID-19 sufferers, even in the absence of disease symptoms, the Thai researchers said. The dogs would not need to directly sniff people, but could screen samples of sweat. According to an Associated Press report, the K9 team will soon be sent to communities suspected of being new COVID-19 hotspots to screen people with possible infections. The dogs will work inside a mobile unit while the collecting team can come through the community collecting samples. The researchers have been working with a team of Labradors and Retrievers in recent months.
Google Philippines has launched the Android Earthquake Alert System, a free feature that detects earthquakes around the world and alerts users. The system alerts people in two ways, via the search engine and directly on the Android mobile device. It provides near-instant information via Google Search. When people look up earthquake or earthquake near me, they will find relevant results along with helpful resources on what to do after an earthquake. The Android device notification, on the other hand, provides an early warning alert when accelerometers detect an earthquake in an area. It sends a signal to Google's earthquake detection server, along with the course location of where the shaking occurred. The server then takes this information from smartphones to analyze if an earthquake is happening where and its corresponding magnitude. The feature can also be turned off in the device's settings if users do not wish to receive such alerts. On mobile devices, the Android Earthquake Alert System displays two types of alerts depending on the magnitude and intensity of earthquake. Google said the Android Earthquake Alert System was first introduced in New Zealand and Greece, and aside from the Philippines, it's also accessible in Kazakhstan, Kyrgyz Republic, Philippines, Tajikistan, Turkey, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan.
In celebration of its 69th founding anniversary, the Department of Science and Technology, Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology will launch a new mobile app, Volcano PH Info, on June 21, 2021 via an online press conference dubbed as Info Centro sa Philippines. With the Volcano PH Info, the public can access straight from their Android devices the latest volcano bulletins and advisories. The abridged and visually appealing information on the app will help the users understand the current volcano status and, more importantly, identify the necessary preparedness and response actions for their safety. Users can select from the list of volcanoes with alert levels on the homepage. After clicking on a particular volcano, they will be provided with a summary of the 24-hour observation period containing the alert level, monitoring parameters, and recommendations in Filipino language. They can view the volcanic earthquakes for the past 2 weeks and access volcano advisories and additional information such as alert level scheme, bulletin archive, volcano hazard maps, volcano preparedness guide, and glossary of terms. Future developments of the app include English language setting and iOS version.
And finally, in our news, our EBC correspondent Esther Odanga takes us to Nong Non Market, a famous souvenir market in Chonburi Province. Esther.
Hello everyone, today we are here market, or what the locals term as Talat Nongmun. And we're going to try the famous sticky rice in bamboo or kaula. So let's go!
The Nongmun Market is located on the Sukhumvit Road along the way to Bangsan in Chonburi. In this market, you can find both fresh and processed seafood such as sun-dried squids, dried shrimps, dried razor clam, shrimp paste, and fish sauce. It also sells other Thai foods like various Thai desserts like sweet banana crisp, sweet taro crisp, sweetened fruit preserves, fresh fruits, and more. But the signature dessert in the market is khao lam. It is a sweet custardy sticky rice in bamboo trunk. And if you buy khao lam, don't forget to ask the vendor to open it with a hammer or a knife so you can easily eat the treasure inside.
Inside, it's made of sticky rice, black sticky rice, and with coconut milk and black beef. So come on, let's try it out. It's delicious, especially for people like me who are rice lovers. Having this dessert for your snack, a rice snack, why not? It's worth a try.
Because of the pandemic, Nongbon Market is less crowded than in the past. But Nongbon Market still has not lost its classic reputation, especially for its renowned delicious khao lam Nongbon.
Over the years, Nongbon Market has been a popular place for locals, especially those who travel to the eastern part of Thailand. And if you can visit Thailand, please don't forget to visit Nongbon Market or Talat Nongmun and try out sticky rice in bamboo. This has been Esther Odanga from EBC Thailand Bureau, reminding everyone to stay safe and stay healthy, and we live in interesting times.
Thank you, Esther, for that feature. And thank you, Crystal, for keeping me company today.
My pleasure, Alma. Just a quick one. Belated happy birthday to Erin Sebastian. The greeting is from your sister, Eliana. And that's the latest news in the ASEAN region. Thank you for joining us today here in ASEAN in Focus. This is Crystal Ann Ballesteros from your Cambodia Bureau, and we live in interesting times.
Special shout out to Brother Willen Regalado, who's always taking care of our bureau there. And thank you for supporting us. Thank you. I'm Alma Angeles, and we live in interesting times.